way. You're not interviewing the guys that I like and the offenses that I think I fit in. So this is a problem. I remember being in Chicago and walking in the building around in a January, February morning, and Jay Cutler's in the building. We just meet. I'm like, what are you doing here, bro? You should be at home with the kids. He's like, I just got out of a meeting with Bruce Arians. I just got out of a meeting with Coach Trustman. Like, they brought me in here. They want the organization, the McCaskies wanted me to be a part of the process. I said, wow, that's interesting. Did you ask to be a part of it? He said, no, they actually came to me. So when you think about this, this is a big deal. There was, man, you didn't interview Bieniemy. Why don't I have a seat at the table? So from a football perspective, it's just not working there. And then there's a bigger story out there, and it's uncomfortable. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. In 2020, we were all talking about what is the new norm. Well, the new norm is we want to know where you stand with your politics. We want to know how you feel about the LGBTQ community. What's your viewpoint on race? How do you feel about equality? So what's happening in sports is players understand who you vote for. They understand where you stand, even when you don't say it. So Deshaun Watson is looking at this thing and saying, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable here. And there's other players like Dwayne Brown stepping up and saying, I wasn't comfortable there. This is a big story, and I think this is just the beginning, Nick.
And Brandon, just to build off that point for a moment, what the very wise man Slim Charles once said, even if it's a lie, we fight on the lie. So even if you are within the Texans organization, you think it's totally unfair and it's a misnomer that we're not on the right side of the racial issues America's dealing with, you are not helping yourself by continuing to empower Jack Easterby, a poor man's Tony Robbins, who, according to Sports Illustrated, and I want to get this quote exactly, in one of his first times addressing the team, asked a group of majority black men to, quote, remember your youth playing ball with Ray Ray and Kiki in them. That is not something that you're going to recover from. And when that man says that and then only ascends higher in the power structure, and then according to Mike Florio and other reports, you hire a whole GM consulting firm to figure out who your next GM is. They land on a person of color, Omar Khan, and then Easterby goes in the back door and says, how about Nick Caserio? As a different wise man once said, that ain't great. And so if you're the Texans, what you have now is this. You have the greatest player in franchise history, J.J. Watt, who seems to be open to the possibility of leaving. You have the second greatest player in franchise history, Andre Johnson, who never says anything, saying that's where careers go to die. Trust me, I'd know. You have the third greatest player in franchise history, traded in DeAndre, and the fourth best player ever seemingly wanting to be traded in Deshaun. So this is a 5-alarm fire, much like what the basketball team's dealing with. Fortunately for the Texans, Wilds, Deshaun is more professional right now than James Harden is. Deshaun's not going to be out of shape. Deshaun's not going to dog it. So I think it's salvageable, and I think they understand that by all of a sudden, just at the last moment, in a tardy perspective, really, asking to interview Bieniemy. But the number one goal, Wilds, of everyone in the organization needs to be, how do we salvage our relationship with Deshaun Watson? Because if you don't, then all of a sudden, you lose, go ahead, I think you lose all relevance on the NFL landscape, Brandon.
No, you can go Wilds, but you can't. I just think, Wilds, man, that it's this guy wants to move on. Point blank, period. He's looking at both sides of it. It's just not a great fit.
Okay, so a little context on Andre Johnson. Not only, Nick, were you right that he hasn't tweeted since 2019, he was also part of the internal committee that was recommending the GM and the coach. So the fact that Andre Johnson was ignored adds another layer to this. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting. Nick, I'll throw it to you. Andre Johnson has Deshaun Watson's cell phone. DeAndre Hopkins can also text Deshaun Watson. This wasn't really advice to Deshaun Watson, obviously. This is a message to the media.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Fans, the league,
that's right,
and Cal McNair when it's a shot at Easterby. So I don't know if the ball, if everyone looks around, now the scales are starting to go way off now. It's like, uh-oh, now we've got the media, the league, other players. We're making it public. This is no longer like, hey, Deshaun, you should sit in your... That either McNair has to make a move on Easterby. Easterby decides to say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna remove myself. Or it just continues the status quo and you lose Deshaun Watson. So those are your options, I think. But the fact that this was public I thought was a smart strategic move by Andre Johnson.
Yeah, well, Nick, let me jump in here really quickly because I get your point with Easterby, but I don't want to make this about Easterby when it's really about ownership. Easterby, I was around this guy for 10 years. Every year, a group of around 200 players in the National Football League and their significant other get together and we talk about marriage, we talk about faith, we talk about so many things. PAO, the increased conference. So I've been around Easterby for around 10 years in a row. This dude is an amazing guy. He is well respected in the Christian community. So when you talk about football, that's different. For him being second in command, that's interesting. So we can have that conversation, but Easterby as a man, I can sit up here and say that he is an awesome dude. Now, is he out of his league when it comes to football ops? Probably so.
Well, and I'm not trying to indict him as a man. And listen, I'm sure he'd love to have that quote back, but sometimes first impressions are your impression, and you kind of spoil the well for the future, whether you meant to or not, even if it was just out of naivete. But
especially in a
Brandon,
new organization.
You're talking absolutely. And Brandon, you're talking about this like essentially the book is written that they can't salvage it. If I'm the Texans, I am at the least I'm going to do is fair or not, throw Easterby overboard to see if I can salvage it. This is, call it, your last run at marriage counseling. We're probably getting divorced, but I don't want to, so I'm going to see if I can save it. So what do you want? You want me to sell the car? You always hated? Fine, it's gone. Maybe we're getting divorced anyway, but I want to save it. So if the Texans, if they end up choosing Easterby over Deshaun, it is as incomprehensible of a decision, Jenna, as I've ever seen a sports team make. A sports team.
All right, is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
First things first, Kyrie Irving missed another game last night. When will he rejoin his team? Andre Johnson speaking out on behalf of Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. What's the latest now in Houston? And should Baker have the Chiefs on upset alert come Sunday? Good morning, everyone. I'm Jenna Wolf alongside Nick Wright, shaking in his boots, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Nick, the underdog Browns are a scrappy bunch. Never say never, buddy, no matter who they're playing.
I got a major announcement about the Chiefs-Browns game at 8:30 Eastern. A major announcement. I can't believe I'm making it.
I have now just set my watch, even though I don't know how to do that on this kind of watch. But we got to start this morning where the problem in Houston is so big, I can't even use my favorite line that Houston, we have a problem. I can't even say it. I can't even say Houston, we have a problem because the line is so good and the problem is so big. Rockets got blown out by the Lakers last night, which only made the James Harden situation that much more complicated. Harden used his post-game press conference to air his grievances, if you will, let everyone know where he stands with the team. Take a listen to this.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything. And it was clear, like I said, these last few games, they just, from the beginning of the game, they were just aggressive. Veteran team, obviously, championship team, and one of the best teams that we have in this league. I love this city. I literally, have done everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, thanks.
See you later.
That's it. He took 2 questions and he was done. So just so I'm clear, losing to one of the best teams in basketball means you are literally the worst. We're cashing in. All right. There's a lot going on here in Houston. Nick, what'd you make of Harden's comments?
Well, like you said, Jenna, there's a lot here. So I try to be very consistent with my takes, and yet I've yo-yoed a bit on Harden. I was very, very pro-Harden, defended him for years when I thought he was unfairly maligned for not being able to carry his team past an all-time great Warriors team. And then his nonsense this summer made me flip on it. But then the first 3 games of the year, he's 37 points, he's 11 assists, he's